Chapter 54. After Fang Xiaozhong, another 3 disciples failed. All of a sudden, the exam master's face darkened. Next, Wang Xuemei. Wang Xuemei was about 16 years old. She was not that pretty, but she had a determined look on her face. She responded, walked out of the group, and walked towards the bronze bell step by step. Looking at the girl who just walked out, the exam master's eyes brightened. Although this girl's Zhenqi was a little unstable, it was much better than the previous 5. She must have trained herself, and had been through a lot of hard work. Let's start. The exam master's voice was filled with anticipation. Wang Xuemei nodded. She held her right palm in front of her chest and threw out a lightning-fast attack. Who? The bronze bell rang once, but because it was so fast, most people did not even hear it. The exam master smiled. Wang Xuemei, pass. Phew. Wang Xuemei let out a breath of relief. She had been a bit arrogant before, thinking that she could easily shake the bell without using any martial skills. She did not expect that it would only shake a little, and even she could not hear it clearly, let alone the others. It seemed like Wang Xuemei had inspired them, for out of the next 7 disciples successfully shook the bell and passed the first test. Next, Yi Chen. Finally, the exam master called out Yi Chen's name. Without giving the others much time to think, Yi Chen casually walked a few steps forward. When he was still quite a distance away from the bronze bell, he threw out a punch in the air. Dong! The bronze bell shook violently, and the sound lingered in the air for a long time. It traveled all the way to the outside of the venue, and even traveled miles. The 2 inner disciples at the door were shocked. Who was this? He had just reached the condensing reality realm and he could already shake the bronze bell and cause such a huge noise. Inside the hall. Did I see it wrong? He was 15 steps away from the bell. No, at least 16 steps. What a monster. Could it be that he had already reached the condensing reality realm and had been hiding all this time? All the disciples who were participating in the test were discussing, all of their attention was on Yi Chen. Yi Chen looked calm. Shaking the bronze bell from a distance was not difficult for him at all. It would be strange if he could not shake it. The exam master paused for a second, then smiled and said, "Good, qualified, qualified." To say "pass" twice in a row, it could be seen how shocked the exam master was. After the first assessment ended, the second assessment officially began, and the disciples who did not pass were asked to leave. At the back of the assessment hall. This was an open-air field, about 500 square feet. In the center, there was a 20-meter-wide lake. On both sides of the lake, there was a 10-meter-tall wooden bridge. Looking at it as a whole, it looked like a wooden bridge that had been cut off from the middle. It looked extremely strange. The second test is to test your Qing Gong, and Qing Gong is particular about the purity of your Zhenqi. Now, stand on the wooden frame on the right, and jump to the wooden frame on the opposite side to pass the test. Of course, if you grab the wooden frame with your hands, you will also pass. Raising his head, Yi Chen looked around and realized that the distance between the wooden shelves was the same as the width of the lake, which was about 20 feet, or 66 meters. A normal mortal realm warrior would feel dizzy just by looking at it, not to mention flying across it. Sure enough, except for Wang Xuemei, the faces of the others turned pale. 20 feet, that's too far. My cloud-traversing steps can only allow me to traverse 50 meters in the air at most. I can't go any further. You're lucky, you're training the cloud steps, but I'm training the tiger leap art, which can only allow me to jump 30 meters. What about the other 30 meters? Hearing their discussion, Wang Xuemei's mouth curved into a smile. She looked extremely confident. Just as the exam master was about to announce the start of the assessment, a group of inner disciples came out of the exam hall. All of them were talking and laughing. Why are you guys here? The exam master was a bit annoyed. Master, you don't know that there are very few missions at the end of the year. We've been training too hard. We heard that a lot of people are going to be promoted to inner disciple today, so we came to have a look. One of them seemed to be quite familiar with the exam master. He laughed and said, Alright, if you want to have a look, then have a look. But don't disturb their assessment, or I'll kick you out immediately. Don't worry, when have we caused any trouble for you? The exam master nodded, he cleared his throat and said, First, Wang Xuemei. Hearing him, Wang Xuemei's feet touched the ground, she jumped onto the wooden shelf on the right like a bullet. She took a deep breath, ran a few steps and jumped high into the air like a swallow. 10 meters. 20 meters. 50 meters. 55 meters. When she was 10 meters away from the wooden shelf on the left, Wang Xuemei used up all of her Jin Qi, her body started to fall rapidly, she was about to fail. Wind connection art. At that critical moment, Wang Xuemei yelled, her body once again jumped out of the air and landed on the wooden shelf. An inner disciple said, to be able to train the wind connection art to this level is already very good. This art allows you to quickly change your Jin Qi when you use up all of it. Then it was the second disciple's turn. What he practiced was the cloud traversing steps. When he used it, it was as if he was riding on the clouds, extremely graceful and vigorous. However, due to the limitations of his realm, when he was only 5 meters away from the wooden shelf, he fell into the lake, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws, causing a huge splash. The third disciple was even more ridiculous, he only flew for about 30 meters before he fell back down, which made the crowd laugh. The fourth disciple was quite lucky, he managed to move half a meter forward at that critical moment, he grabbed onto the edge of the wooden shelf, his whole body dangling there. The fifth disciple swallowed his saliva, he asked the exam master, Master, can I step on the water? Step on the water. The exam master looked confused. The wooden shelf was 10 meters high, and jumping on the water was not easy. After all, the water was not like the ground, where one could use it as leverage. Although there is no such rule, if you can jump on it, I will let you pass. The exam master nodded in agreement. His face lit up, the disciple jumped onto the wooden shelf and jumped into the water. Shoo! 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 Like a dragonfly touching the surface of the water, he stepped on the water at an extremely fast speed, his body was as light as a feather. Hee, this must be the floating body art. No wonder he suggested this. But it is not that easy to jump to 10 meters high. A lot of inner disciples saw through the movement art that the disciple was using, they were all curious, they wanted to see how he was going to pass the test. Hey! When he was 5 meters away from the other side of the lake, the disciple's right foot stomped on the water, creating a huge splash, his body shot up into the sky. It is the explosion water spell, no wonder. Yi Chen's eyebrows twitched. He had heard of the explosion water spell, this martial art could condense water in a short period of time, then explode it with Jin Qi, creating a huge force. If that was the case, he could use the explosive force to push his body and easily jump into the sky. The exam master let out a bitter laugh, pass. Next, Yi Chen. Chapter 55. All of a sudden, everyone's attention was on Yi Chen, because he was the last one. Yi Chen did not feel any pressure, he stretched his body and jumped into the air like a giant bird, lightly landing on the wooden shelf. Just this move alone had shocked all the participating disciples. Let's start. The exam master nodded, Yi Chen's talent was beyond his expectation, in time, he would definitely become one of the top inner disciples. Looking at the wooden shelf 66 meters away, Yi Chen felt that it was so close. When he was at the peak of Mortal Realm Stage 10, he could already fly almost 100 meters in the air, now that he had reached the condensing reality realm, 150 meters was nothing. If he could train a top-rank Mortal Realm art, 200 meters would only be a matter of time. With a slight whistle, Yi Chen took a step forward, his arms were wide open, just like a rock spreading its wings, his clothes fluttered in the wind, he moved very fast. Shoo! After 2 blinks of an eye, Yi Chen landed on the wooden shelf in front of him. The exam master yelled, Good, pass. Brother Huang, this Yi Chen's movement art does not seem to be any weaker than yours. No, in terms of movement art, he is already better than me, my only advantage is that my Jin Qi is slightly higher. TSK, the inner disciples can choose any top-rank mortal realm art. At that time, the only one who could compete with him in movement art would probably be the flying in the wind Brother Feng. Comparing him with Brother Feng, you guys are overestimating him. Seeing that the second part of the exam had ended, the inner disciples who were watching the exam started to discuss excitedly, each with their own opinions. The exam master looked at the inner disciples who were in the middle of their discussion with a smile. What? Besides him, don't look down on Zhang Haoran and Wu Zongming, who were promoted to inner disciples a few months ago. Their talents are 1 in a million, 1 in 1,000. That's right. I know that Zhang Haoran, half a month ago, he beat Brother Guo, who was famous for his powerful attacks. A lot of people are still talking about him. This guy is arrogant, but he does have what it takes. Soon. It was time for the third test. There was another space behind the open-air field. It was an existence similar to an ancient arena. The center of the field had been dug out, and it looked like a circular swimming pool without any water. On the rock wall at the edge of the field, there were 8 black holes several meters in size, which were sealed with iron gates. The third test is to fight with demonic beasts. Those who can last for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn will pass and officially become an inner disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School. The exam master said to the remaining 4 people. The disciple next to Wang Xuemei asked, Elder, may I know what level the demonic beast is? Level 3. Ah! Rank 3 demonic beast. The disciple's face turned pale. If his opponent was an early condensing reality realm warrior, he would not be afraid, but a rank 3 demonic beast was different. Compared to human warriors, demonic beasts were born with powerful bodies and fierce auras. Under the same cultivation situation, demonic beasts were undoubtedly more powerful than human warriors. The exam master sneered, "You are afraid." The disciple did not say anything. If I am afraid of a rank 3 demonic beast, how can I survive in the martial world in the future? You know, the scariest thing in the martial world is not the demonic beasts, not the powerful warriors, but the human heart. The evil people are 10 times, even 100 times scarier than the demonic beasts. They can kill without spilling blood. The exam master said. Wang Xuemei looked at the disciple with disdain, and said, Elder, I am willing to be the first one to take the test. The exam master liked Wang Xuemei quite a bit. He smiled, since you have just reached the condensing reality realm, of course we will not use the powerful rank 3 demonic beasts. The rank 3 demonic beasts for this test are Iron Claw Demonic Wolf, Leopard Tail Wolf, Blood Pattern Bear, and Black-Shelled Cow. Iron Claw Demonic Wolf. Leopard Tail Wolf. Blood Pattern Bear. Black-Shelled Cow. It is indeed not that powerful, it is only as powerful as a normal early condensing reality realm warrior. An inner disciple said. Alright, the test starts now. Wang Xuemei, you are the first one. Wang Xuemei jumped down. She looked at the black hole that was sealed by the iron gate. She could feel an evil aura locked onto her. Ready? The exam master walked to the mechanism and asked. Wang Xuemei nodded. Crack! Crack! As the exam master opened the mechanism, the iron gate slowly rose up, revealing the inside of the black hole bit by bit. Whoa! Before the iron gate was fully opened, a huge black shadow jumped out of it, carrying a horrifying demonic aura towards Wang Xuemei. Cloak Blade Art. Wang Xuemei did not panic. She took out 2 short blades from her waist, and threw them out in a cross shape, landing on the black shadow's body. Chin. Sparks flew everywhere. The black shadow showed its real body. It was a calf-sized demonic wolf. Its fur was pitch black, and its eyes were red with a hint of green. Its huge mouth was slightly open, revealing its hideous canine teeth. Right then, its front paws were on the blades. It was fighting against Wang Xuemei. Piss off! Infusing her Jin Qi into the short blades, Wang Xuemei yelled in a low voice. Her body suddenly twisted. The blades were spinning like a spinning top. Shoo! The Iron Claw demonic wolf was extremely agile. It jumped out of the way, then jumped at Wang Xuemei from another angle. It was sly yet cautious, but at the same time, it could not hide its natural brutality. Wang Xuemei seemed to have experience in fighting against rank 3 beasts. She did not panic, nor was she greedy. Basically, she was using the strategy of blocking when the enemy came. The two short blades danced in the air so that not even a drop of water could get through. She protected her body, and from time to time, her blades would collide with the iron claw demonic wolf's claws, creating beautiful sparks. One person and one beast were evenly matched. Soon, the time it took for an incense stick to burn was up. Wang Xuemei, you have passed the exam. Congratulations on becoming an inner disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School. The exam master made a gesture with his right hand, and the iron claw demonic wolf was grabbed by an invisible giant hand, and sent into the black hole. Then, the iron gate was closed, and the wolf could no longer come out. Wiping the sweat off her forehead, Wang Xuemei was a little shocked. This iron claw demonic wolf had been locked up for too long, and it was even more ferocious than normal iron claw demonic wolves. If she had not been trained like this in her family, she would not have been able to get out alive. Luckily, she had finally made it through. Now, she was officially an inner disciple, and was qualified to learn top-rank mortal realm manuals. In the future, she would be able to take on missions from the school, and travel around the world like the other inner disciples, making a name for herself. The next one to take the exam was the male disciple who did not perform well before. His opponent was the leopard-tail wolf, which was famous for its speed and brutality. Within 10 breaths, the male disciple had been scratched by the leopard-tail wolf and fell to the ground. At that critical moment, the exam master had saved him, but it also meant that he had lost the chance to become an inner disciple. If he wanted to take the exam again, he would have to wait for another 3 months. Then, it was the disciple who had passed the second exam with the exploding water spell. Although his flying art was not as good as the others, his attacking power was not bad. The blood pattern bear, which was not very agile, obviously could not hurt him at all. Instead, it was hit a couple of times, but of course, it did not care at all. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the second inner disciple was born. Yi Chen, it's your turn. The exam master was not worried about Yi Chen anymore. The only thing he was worried about was whether or not he could beat the beast, or if he could survive the time it took for an incense stick to burn like the previous two. Yi Chen did not know what the exam master was thinking, so he jumped into the air and jumped down quickly. Chapter 56. The iron gate opened, and a majestic shadow with an extremely oppressive aura walked out. Moo! The black shadow roared into the sky. It was a demonic bull covered in black armor, with 2 horns that looked like sharp blades. The demonic bull was 2.5 meters tall, its eyes were as big as bells, and its nose was blowing out a whirlwind like air. Its hooves had sharp claws that were curved like blades, shining with a cold light. The black shell bull is the most powerful beast among the 3. It was born with great strength, and its defense is extremely high. It will be very hard to beat it. I think it can only last for another 30 minutes. Obviously, the crowd did not think that Yi Chen could beat the black shell bull. After all, even some of the inner disciples could not break through the black shell bull's defense in a short time, not to mention Yi Chen, who had just reached the condensing reality realm. Different from the iron claw demonic wolf and the blood pattern bear, the black shell bull did not attack immediately. It kept its right hooves on the ground, and stared at Yi Chen with its bell-sized eyes. It lowered its body slightly. Tat 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 tat, after charging up, the black shell bull's body suddenly emitted a dark gray demonic chi. The dense demonic chi covered it completely, only revealing its 2 bloody red eyes. Then it started to move its hooves, and with a horrifying pressure, it charged towards Yi Chen, trying to kill him with 1 hit. At this moment, Yi Chen moved. The muscles on his right arm swelled, and he clenched his fist, pointing it forward. When the black shell bull was only half a meter away from him, Yi Chen let out a low growl, and punched through the demonic chi, landing heavily on the black shell bull's forehead. Boom! The hard rock ground cracked open, and the black shell bull's huge body was suddenly pressed into the ground. It was bleeding from every orifice, and its limbs were twitching. killing the black shell bull with one punch. Gasp! The inner disciples who were watching the battle gasped, they were shocked. Wang Xuemei murmured, "How can there be such a freak?" After a while, the exam master praised him, "Well done. With your potential and talent, it will not be hard for you to make a name for yourself in the future. You might even be able to compete with the geniuses from other martial institutions, and bring glory to our Sky Cloud Martial School." Yi Chen's face did not turn red, nor was he out of breath. Just now, he had only used 70 to 80% of his strength. It could not be said to be strenuous. Hearing this, he said, "Elder, you flatter me. It doesn't matter if you've won or not. Everything depends on your own hard work. Otherwise, no matter how talented you are, your achievements will be limited. In the past 20 years, I've seen many unknown disciples soar to the skies, and I've also seen many talented disciples slowly fall. I hope you're not the next one." The exam master did not know how many times he had placed his hopes on Yi Chen, but unfortunately, in the end, only a few people were able to fulfill his expectations. However, Yi Chen was one of the people he had high hopes for, and he sincerely hoped that he could grow up and take charge of his own affairs. "Alright, now that the inner court disciple assessment is over, the three of you, follow me to collect your inner court disciple waste tokens, clothing and other things. The rest of you are dismissed." In the side hall of the examination hall. According to your body shape, each of you can pick 3 sets of inner court disciple robes. In the future, if any of them are torn, you can come here to change them. The exam master opened one of the rows of cabinets and said to Yi Chen and the other 2. Yi Chen fixed his eyes on the cabinet. It was huge, divided into 12 compartments, and in each compartment, there were 10 sets of white robes. All of them were of different sizes, and the sizes were marked on the outside. The 3 of them were very familiar with their own sizes, so they quickly picked out their robes. Then, the exam master brought the 3 of them to the armory, and let them pick out the weapons they liked. Yi Chen picked out a 4-feet-long great sword, named Hidden Cloud. It was as famous as the colorful snow blade from the North Snow Martial Academy and the crystal sword from the Emerald Martial Palace. They were all extremely powerful weapons. Wang Xuemei picked out 2 dark purple short knives, named Purple Deer. The other disciple was not good with weapons, so he randomly picked out a dagger that could cut through iron like it was mud. At this moment, the exam master took out 3 dark blue-colored tags from the box next to him. They looked like they were made of wood or iron, and seemed to be a bit heavy. Remember, you can't just throw away an inner court disciple tag. It represents your identity, and it is also the proof of your training in the outside world. When you are in danger, you can show the tag, and it might be able to save you. On the other hand, if you lose the tag and get killed, the Sky Cloud Martial School won't be able to handle it. You have to remember this. The exam master warned. Yes. The 3 of them nodded. Picking up a tag, the exam master concentrated his power on his fingers, and started writing on the back of the tag. His Zhen-Qi rubbed against the tag, and a light cyan smoke came out. After writing on the first tag, the exam master picked up the second one. Soon, all 3 tags had been written with names, so it was useless for others to take them. Taking over the tag, Yi Chen subconsciously used 60% of his power, trying to test the tag's toughness. The result was out of his expectation. There was no mark on the tag at all. Yi Chen did not believe it. He combined all of his Zhen-Qi with his strong power and poured it into his fingertips, and pressed on the tag. Sizzle! A thin layer of white smoke came out, but the tag was still undamaged. Releasing his Zhen-Qi, Yi Chen couldn't help but admire the exam master's profound cultivation. He was able to write the names of the 3 of them on the tag so easily. If that finger had landed on his body, it would definitely have pierced a bloody hole. Now, come with me to the Ranking Jade Wall. That is the place every inner court disciple has to go to. The Ranking Jade Wall? The 3 of them had heard of this place, but they had never been there. The palace in the middle of the mountain was called the Floating Cloud Palace. It was the place where the inner court disciples could take on missions. Outside of the palace was a huge square that was paved with white marble. On the side of the square, there was a jade wall that was 1 meter tall and 1 meter wide. It was completely white with a hint of cyan, and there were many wooden tags hanging on it. Right now, there were a lot of inner court disciples standing under the jade wall. They all raised their heads to look at the positions of the wooden tags and the names on them. Zhang Haoran actually climbed up another 10 places. He's now at 285th place. That Wu Zongming is not bad either, he is now 333rd, the most impressive one is still senior sister Su Jing, she jumped from 23rd to 8th among the core disciples, and finally made it to the top of the jade wall. While everyone was talking, Yi Chen and the other two followed the exam master to the jade wall. Greetings, Elder Tang. Are these 3 newly promoted inner court disciples? Although the exam master was only an outer court master, he was very powerful, even more powerful than the inner court masters. On top of that, he was a kind and friendly person, and was highly respected and loved by everyone. The exam master nodded, and said with a smile, "You guys have to work hard, some of them have great potential, I think they are not below the top 400. Hee, we are working hard every day, don't worry, Elder Tang." Yi Chen didn't care about the others' conversation, he just carefully observed the huge jade wall. On the surface of the jade wall, there were many wooden tags, roughly divided into 29 rows. Each row could hold up to 20 tags, with different names written on them. Among them, Wu Zongming and Zhang Haoran were in the list, they were the 3rd on the 17th row, and the 15th on the 14th row. The first and second rows were the wooden tags of the core disciples, they were bright red in color, bright and eye-catching, above everyone else. The third row was for the top 10 inner court disciples, their wooden tags were light red, which meant that they had the ability to become a core disciple, and replace the position of the core disciples. The fourth row was for the inner court disciples with the most number of people, their wooden tags were dark cyan, similar to the inner court disciples' tags. Chapter 57. The 3 of you, write your name on the empty wooden plate and hang it at the end. The exam master pointed at the last row of empty wooden plates and said. Yi Chen took down the empty wooden plate, and just like the others, he gathered his strength on his fingers and slowly carved 2 words, Yi Chen, and then hung it back. The exam master rubbed his temples and said, "The rules of the ranking, I will not talk about these trivial things, you can ask your senior brothers and sisters, they will tell you everything. If there is nothing else, I will leave for now." After the exam master left, the male disciple who had just been promoted to an inner disciple immediately asked, "Senior brothers and sisters, my name is Li Sheng. May I ask, what is the use of the ranking, and how do we rank?" One of the inner disciples explained, "To be honest, the ranking does not have any practical use, but if you really think that it is useless, then you are completely wrong. First of all, the ranking can stimulate the competitive spirit, no one wants to be ranked lower than others, and no one can just casually get a high rank. If you want to rush to the top, you have to rely on hard work and power. Of course, there are some people who are willing to give up, but after all, it is very rare, almost negligible. After all, it is not easy to become an inner disciple, everyone knows how hard it is. Most importantly, at the end of the year, the inner disciples who are ranked out of the top 500 will lose their inner disciple status, and become outer disciples again. If you want to recover, you will have to wait for half a year, and before that, there have already been 11 inner disciples who have been removed from the ranking. What a cruel competition! Yi Chen thought more deeply than the others. After listening to the exam master, it did not seem like a big deal, since only those who were ranked out of the top 500 would be removed from the ranking, as long as they were not too bad, then they would definitely be able to stay on the ranking. But the problem was, the inner disciples who were not ranked out of the top 500 would definitely not be willing to be removed from the ranking, so they would try their best to climb up. When a person managed to get into the top 500, they would be afraid of being pulled down by others, so they would definitely continue to work hard and fight for a higher rank, only then would they be safe. But this way, the other people who were pulled down would be anxious. Who would want to be ranked out of the top 500? Of course not, so they would also try their best to climb up, the higher the ranking, the better. In the end, the entire list would become a chaotic battle, and only a small portion of people would be spared. Another inner disciple continued, "The rules of the ranking are very simple, you can challenge each other, but the condition is that the challengers must be in the same row. For example, a disciple in the 29th row can only challenge an inner disciple in the 29th row, and once he becomes the first disciple in the 29th row, he can challenge an inner disciple in the 28th row. Apart from that, there will be an inner disciple ranking competition in the middle of the year, and it will be a big event. The entire ranking list will be cleaned, and some inner disciples who are afraid of being challenged will have no reason to avoid it. I see. Li Sheng sized up Yi Chen, his heart filled with envy. With Yi Chen's strength, it should be easy for him to make it into the top 400. It was unlikely that he would be eliminated, but Li Sheng would be in danger. At this time, a rather good-looking senior sister reminded them, I suggest that you take on a few missions from the sect first, and then challenge other inner disciples. You have to know that if you have not experienced danger or killed before, it will have a great impact on your combat power, and the inner disciples who are challenged will not show mercy. That's right, being challenged will always make people unhappy. Those with good tempers might make you vomit blood, but those with bad tempers might make you lie in bed for a while. This is very common. Suddenly, a noise came from the front of the plaza. Everyone looked over and saw two young men with blood all over their clothes, carrying another young man whose life or death was unknown. What happened to junior brother Liang? Someone hurriedly asked. The one on the left wiped his tears. The disciples of the Purple Sun Martial School are too much. We were the ones who found the mission first, but they snatched it away and even tried to attack us. In order to protect us, senior brother Liang was punched 3 times and kicked 4 times, he is seriously injured. Fuck, those bastards from the Purple Sun Martial School, just you wait, I will teach them a lesson when I get the chance. They are so cruel, they snatched the mission and still want to attack us. Hearing the angry voices of the crowd, Yi Chen started to feel the pressure of being a martial disciple. Inside the martial school, he had to fight for the ranking, but outside of the martial school, he had to face the provocations of other martial school disciples. If he was even a little bit careless, he could be killed or injured. Of course, this was not the only danger. Many of those underground martial artists had suffered at the hands of the martial schools before, and if they had the chance, they would definitely try to assassinate the martial school disciples. Seeing this, Wang Xuemei knew that she was not powerful enough. She bit her lips, turned around and walked away quietly. Let's go to the pavilion of martial skills first. After becoming an inner disciple, he had half a year to train freely. Although he did not have to wait for half a year, he would definitely choose to train a couple of top-rank Mortal Realm martial arts. Even the King Kong Fist and the Golden Goose art seemed to be of a low rank. In the pavilion of martial skills. Master, we meet again. This time, Yi Chen greeted the master first, and showed him his inner disciple tag. The pavilion elder exclaimed, an inner disciple token. Good boy. Hee, I just got promoted. Now I can go to the second floor, right? There is no time limit, right? Yi Chen laughed. Of course not, go ahead. After saying this, the pavilion master was stunned for a long time, then he said to himself, this kid is a genius. He was only at Mortal Realm Stage 4 at that time. Second floor. Standing at the entrance, Yi Chen thought to himself, from now on, I can stay here as long as I want. How great! There were not that many top-rank Mortal Realm martial arts, there were only about 100 of them. But to choose one that was suitable for him, it would be a bit difficult. First of all, he would have to choose a martial art. Before, the pure Yuan art had brought a lot of benefits to Yi Chen, so this time, he would still choose this type of Jinqi martial art. Although the Mystic Gravity spell had special effects like the Mystic Gravity Field, it could only be used in close combat, so the overall evaluation would not be that high. 3 Purple Chi Flower spell, a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art, divided into 7 stages. Once trained to the 3rd stage, a purple Jinqi flower will appear on top of your head. At the 5th stage, 2 purple Jinqi flowers will appear on top of your head. At the highest stage, the 7th stage, Jinqi will reach the peak of the 3 purple flowers. Azure River spell, a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art, divided into 7 stages. Once trained to the 7th stage, one purple Jinqi flower will appear on top of your head. At the 5th stage, 2 purple Jinqi flowers will appear on top of your head. At the highest stage, the 7th stage will allow you to complete your Jinqi and gather all 3 flowers above your head. Azure River Spell, a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art, divided into 7 stages. Once trained to the 7th stage, the user will be able to gather the surrounding water Yuan Qi and increase the power of his attacks. If trained to the 7th stage, the user will be able to increase the power of his attacks. If trained to the 3rd stage, the user will be able to use the power of thunder and lightning to paralyze the user's body. After reading 3 martial arts in a row, Yichen couldn't help but sigh. They were indeed top-rank Mortal Realm martial arts, every single one of them was extremely powerful. They were definitely not something a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art could compare with. The main reason why he was able to beat Huang Bingwen was that Huang Bingwen's cultivation was not high enough, otherwise he would have already killed him. As for beating Yi Tang and Yi Xian, it was all because of his powerful physical strength. His cultivation did not play much of a role. Thinking about it, Yichen felt lucky. If he only had these 3 martial arts to choose from, he would definitely choose the wind and thunder art. This martial art had a great effect on his movement skills, and in the later stages, it would be able to bring out the power of thunder and lightning. In his hands, it would definitely be able to bring out its full potential. However, it was still too early to choose, there might be better martial arts that he had not seen yet. Chapter 58. On the 2nd floor of the Pavilion of Martial Arts. Yichen picked up all the manuals one by one and put them back. These manuals were actually quite good, they all had their own strengths. For example, some could recover Qi fast, which was good for prolonged battles, some could explode Jin Qi, which was good for quick fights, some were good for defense, which was good for warriors who liked to fight head-on, and some had special effects, such as the mysterious heavy Qi field of the art of martial arts, or the art of grafting. All in all, none of the manuals that could reach the top-rank Mortal Realm were useless. Seeing that he was about to go through all the manuals on the 2nd floor, Yichen finally found one that he was very satisfied with. Pure Jun Jin Qi, a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art, divided into 7 stages. According to the legends, it was the exclusive martial art of the Clear Stream Sword School 2,000 years ago. The first 4 stages focused on training Jin Qi, which could create sharpness, the 5th stage could create Qi light, which could kill people within 10 steps, the 6th stage could go 1 step further, creating a protective Qi light, which could attack and defend at the same time. The highest stage was the 7th stage, where all of the Jin Qi in one's body could be combined into one, and one could create Qi swords with just a wave of one's hand, which could injure people from 100 steps away. Great, this is it. Yichen felt that there was no need to keep searching, this pure Jun Jin Qi was definitely a good fit for him. After deciding on the martial art, the next step was the flying art. The Golden Swallow art was only a high-rank Mortal Realm martial art, but even Yichen did not dare to ignore it. In other words, if he did not have the Golden Swallow art, his only trump card would be his physical strength, but he did not want to reveal too much about the pure Jade body boosting spell. Now that there was an opportunity to choose a top-rank Mortal Realm flying art, Yichen would not let it go. Moving Shadows. Flying Wind Spell. 7-star Cloud Flying Art. Crane Shadow Steps. All kinds of movement art manuals appeared in front of Yichen's eyes, he was almost dazzled by them. Shifting Shadows, as the name suggests, allows one to shift one's body in a very short period of time to confuse the enemy's eyes and ears. Wind Riding Art allows the cultivator's body to become light and strong, as fast as the wind. 7-star Cloud Soaring Art allows the cultivator to step on the 7 stars, allowing the cultivator to travel 1,000 miles. Crane Shadow Steps allows the cultivator to disappear without a trace. It didn't take long for Yichen to choose the Crane Shadow Steps, just like how he chose the Golden Swallow skill. Finally, Yichen picked out a fist art manual. As for the sword art, he did not need it for now. The Lone Peak of 13 Swords was more than enough, since the complete Lone Peak of 13 Swords was also a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art. After leaving the martial skill pavilion, Yi Chen went straight back to his courtyard. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Early in the morning, a thin mist shrouded half of the Breeze Mountain. On a remote cliff, hissing sounds could be heard without end, dense and rapid. A gust of wind blew past, and the mist became thinner. A human figure could be vaguely seen standing there. In front of him was a huge rock, 3 meters tall, and had a black color. The sound came from the human figure. If you looked closely, you would find that the mist around him could not even get within 3 feet of him, as if there was an invisible chi shield around him. Not only that, all the mist that got close to him was shredded into strands and strands. At first glance, it looked like the steam from boiling water. The human figure was, of course, Yi Chen. Right now, his eyes were slightly closed, and he was using all of his pure Junjin Qi. After a long time, Yi Chen moved. With a wave of his hand, an invisible Qi light flew out of his hand and landed on the huge rock. Poof! Stone chips flew everywhere, and a half-foot-long mark appeared on the surface of the huge rock. The edge of the mark was as sharp as a knife. Poof! 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 The first Qi ray was already extraordinarily swift and fierce, but the following Qi rays were even more powerful. Every one of them was narrow and sharp, curved like a knife, and slashed at the huge rock, cutting out countless crisscrossing cracks. It was a ghastly sight. Jin Qi like a blade, is this the 6th level of pure Junjin Qi? Looking at the scarred boulder, Yi Chen felt a little emotional. Half a year ago, his full-strength attack was only this powerful, but now, he could casually send out dozens or even hundreds of them, and still have strength left over. If this dense Qi aura hit a human body, they would be minced into meat paste. Intending to test the power of the Qi light, Yi Chen took a deep breath and straightened his right hand like a blade, waving it in the air. Ka-cha! In the blink of an eye, the huge rock was pierced through, and a hair-thin crack quickly spread out. At the same time, Yi Chen walked towards the boulder. When the distance between the two was less than 3 feet, the surface of the giant rock slowly caved in, and the dark brown stone powder sputtered out in a spiral shape, covering the ground. A moment later, Yi Chen was almost pressed against the rock. When he stepped back and left, he saw an oval depression on the surface of the huge rock. The surface was smooth and exquisite as if it had been meticulously polished. Good, this protective Qi aura is amazing. Yi Chen let out a sigh. The so-called Qi light was actually made up of countless sharp air currents. Any object that got close to it would be shattered into pieces. If one's Jin Qi cultivation reached a certain level, even a well-tempered weapon would not be able to get close to it, and would be shattered into pieces. However, it was not easy to train to the 6th level of pure Junjin Qi. In the past 1.5 months, Yi Chen had trained his Jin Qi for a total of 108 times. After every training, he would break it again and again. Every time, he would be exhausted and sweating profusely. Of course, it was all worth it. The power of the pure Junjin Qi had already been demonstrated. It was way more powerful than most of the Jin Qi, and it was only at the 6th level. If he could train it to the 7th level, he would be able to use his Jin Qi to create Qi swords. By then, he would be able to kill his enemies from hundreds of steps away, which was way more powerful than any other martial skill. Unfortunately, the more powerful a martial art was, the harder it was to train it. Although Yi Chen's comprehensive ability was already on the top, he was not confident that he could reach the 7th level in a short period of time, not to mention the peak of the 7th level, the completed pure Junjin Qi. I should train the crane shadow steps first. According to the rumors, there was a huge mountain in the west of the true spirit continent. There were thousands of years old spirit cranes living on the mountain. The wingspan of the spirit cranes was more than 100 meters, covering the whole sky. Every time it flew over the forest, a large number of trees would be broken. When it flew over the ocean, the waves would be hundreds of meters high, and when it flew over the desert, countless sandstorms would appear and drown everything. The 1,000-years-old spirit cranes were not demonic beasts. Some people said they were divine birds, while others said they were rare species that were raised by powerful ancient martial artists. All kinds of rumors added to the mystery of the spirit cranes. Therefore, every year, a lot of people would travel to the west of the true spirit continent, hoping to catch a glimpse of the spirit cranes. Whether it was true or not, the 1,000-years-old spirit cranes had been around for thousands of years. That was why they were called the spirit cranes. 200 years ago, a flying artist came to the west of the true spirit continent from thousands of miles away just like other people. After waiting for years, he finally saw the spirit cranes. Although the wingspan of the spirit cranes was less than 30 meters, it was still very magical. It could easily tear a small mountain apart with its claws, and when it jumped, it was impossible for the naked eye to follow it. With one leap, it could travel 10 miles. After being amazed, the flying artist spent years observing the spirit crane's movements every day, and finally created a powerful flying art. This flying art was called the crane shadow steps. However, no one had ever seen the spirit cranes before, so they could not bring out the essence of the crane shadow steps. This caused the crane shadow steps to decline, and eventually, it dropped to the top-ranked mortal realm. Coincidentally, the crane shadow steps manual was found by an inner elder of the Sky Cloud Martial School, and was stored in the Martial Skill Pavilion for his disciples to practice. Chapter 59. This secret was heard by Yi Chen from the Pavilion Master. The Pavilion Master was one of the practitioners of the crane shadow steps. According to him, with his peak-level early clasping Yuan realm cultivation, if he performed the crane shadow steps with all his strength, he could reach 200 meters in one leap, which was more than half the speed of sound. However, even the Pavilion Master could not fully understand the essence of the crane shadow steps, so he had to train a low-rank Earth realm movement art called the Flowing Light Movement Art, which allowed him to travel up to 250 meters in a blink of an eye, which was 50 meters faster than the crane shadow steps. 250 meters, more than 3 times of mine. Yi Chen thought that he was very good at movement art. He could travel 70 to 80 meters in a blink of an eye, and normal mortal realm warriors would not even be able to see his shadow. However, compared to the Pavilion Master, the difference was obvious. If the Pavilion Master wanted to kill Yi Chen, it would only take him one attack. Forcing a laugh, Yi Chen knew that he was biting off more than he could chew. What kind of cultivation did the Pavilion Master have, and what kind of cultivation did he have? The two could not be compared at all. Once he reached the clasping Yuan realm, 250 meters might not be that shocking anymore. Without further ado, Yi Chen took out the crane shadow steps manual from his storage ring and started to read from the first page. There were 3 key points to training the crane shadow steps. The first was the body movement, the second was the chi flow, and the third was the mentality. The body movement and the chi flow were not that important, but the mentality was the key. The practitioner had to imagine that they were one with the crane, that they could activate the mysterious potential in their body and increase their speed to a new level. It sounded easy. Wasn't it just fantasizing? Anyone with a bit of imagination could do it. However, fantasizing was just fantasizing. There were very, very few people who could really stimulate the potential in their bodies. There was less than 1 in 10,000, and there might not even be 1 in 100,000. It should be known that the human body was one of the most complicated objects in the world. Its mysteries could not be seen through in one's entire life. Only the 5th great realm of martial artists, the spirit ocean realm, could see the surface of it, understand some of the rules of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and apply it to themselves to slow down the aging process, living for hundreds of years. One more step would be the 6th great realm of martial artists, the life and death realm. Martial artists could completely stimulate the potential of the human body, reverse life and death, and break through the limit of life allowed by the world, living for more than 1,000 years. However, once one reached this realm, with every increase in cultivation, he would have to endure the heavenly punishment, such as the heavenly thunder tribulation, the wind and fire tribulation, or the Yuan spirit tribulation. Each tribulation had countless changes, and each change was divided into different levels. After passing through, one could continue to comprehend the heavenly Tao, preparing to step into the legendary 7th great realm of martial artists. Su King, Xian Ho, the evil king, and the Dragon King were all martial artists who had stepped into the life and death realm. They had a lifespan of 1,000 years, and the potential in their bodies had been fully unleashed. If they were to learn the Crane Shadow Steps, they would be able to master it without much effort. Unfortunately, with their status and power, they would not be interested in the Crane Shadow Steps manual. Perhaps even 1,000 years old Spirit Crane was nothing in their eyes. Of course, stimulating one's potential was only one of the profound mysteries of the human body. It was not the whole thing. After 1,000 years, one would still die completely. Let's not talk about this for now. Yichen let out a sigh when he thought about how to stimulate the potential of the human body. Although he only needed a tiny bit of it, he still sighed. No wonder so many people couldn't understand the essence of the Crane Shadow Steps. After all, they had never seen a spirit crane before, so how could they understand the habits and concept of a spirit crane? Whatever, even without the spiritual perspective of the spirit crane, the Crane Shadow Steps was still one of the best top-rank mortal realm movement art. A lot of people wanted to learn it but couldn't. After the slight disappointment, Yi Chen's fighting spirit was reignited. The first thing he needed to do was to master the Crane Shadow Steps to its peak. Everything else could wait. It was said that there was no sun or moon in the mountains, and it was not a lie at all. A month's time had passed while Yi Chen was diligently practicing the Crane Shadow Steps. Maybe it was because the Crane Shadow Steps could stimulate one's potential, or maybe it was because hard-working people tended to grow faster, but Yi Chen, who was only 15 years old, had grown from 1.7 meters to 1.75 meters. Although he was a little skinny, he did not look skinny at all when he took off his clothes. He had broad shoulders and a narrow waist, and the muscles on his arms and chest were extremely strong. Just by standing there, he had an awe-inspiring aura. After a month of training, Yi Chen had completely mastered the Crane Shadow Steps. His pure Junjin Qi had also reached the peak of the 6th stage, and his protective Qi layer had turned from transparent to light green. Now, he could just casually use the Crane Shadow Steps to fly to the sea of clouds on the other side of the cliff, and then use his protective Qi layer to cut open a path, then turn back. It was as if he had really turned into a spirit crane, and the gravity could no longer restrict his body. Now, I can reach 100 meters in one leap, and with the protective Qi layer on the outside and the pure Jade body boosting spell on the inside, my power has almost doubled. If I meet that Cui Shiming again, I should be able to beat him within 3 attacks. But he is only a normal mid-condensing reality realm warrior. He is not a genius, and most of his martial skills have not been mastered yet, so they are not worth mentioning. If I meet a peak early condensing reality realm warrior who has mastered a few martial skills, it would still be very difficult for me to beat him. Too bad I don't have the chance to test it out, otherwise I would know what my real power level is, and what my limit is. Yi Chen calculated in his mind, but he was still not sure. He thought of himself as a genius, but the true spirit continent did not lack geniuses. Before him, there was Xian Ho, who had reached the life and death realm at the age of 10, and was on the same level as Su King. After him, there were the top 4 childs of the Windy Nation. They were called the top 4 childs because they were talented in all aspects, otherwise, it would be hard to convince the public. Of course, Yi Chen only admired the top 4 childs of the Windy Nation, but it was not enough to move him. The Windy Nation was only a small nation in the South Zhuo region, and there were 24 small nations in the South Zhuo region, 10 medium-sized nations, and 3 large nations. Even a small nation like the Windy Nation had people like the top 4 childs. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the other nations that were bigger than the Windy Nation would be. Not to mention the others, the Rudra Nation, which was right next to the Windy Nation, did not take the Windy Nation seriously at all. They often sent out soldiers to harass the borders of the Windy Nation, or asked their soldiers to dress up as bandits to rob the caravans of the Windy Nation. Besides the national power, the Rudra Nation had always been full of geniuses. Sometimes, they even had more geniuses than most of the small nations, and could even be compared with the medium-sized nations. If it were not for the top 4 childs, the Windy Nation would have already become a laughing stock. Dang, 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 right then, a series of bell ringing came from the middle of the windy mountain, shaking hundreds of miles. Yi Chen's eyebrows twitched. In the Sky Cloud Martial School, only the floating cloud palace would ring the bell. For example, during the inner disciple exam, it did not count as ringing the bell, it was just smashing the bell. There was a huge difference between the two. There must be a lot of missions from the school. No matter what, I have to go check it out first. His body blurred, and the next second, Yi Chen had already flown to a big tree 100 meters away. He flashed a couple of times, then disappeared without a trace. Chapter 60. Inside the majestic floating cloud palace, there were hundreds of disciples gathered, and from time to time, there would be other disciples arriving. Stepping into the palace, Yi Chen looked up. The palace was still empty even though there were hundreds of people gathered there. The floor was paved with green steel stones, and on both sides of the walls, there were 9 stone pillars that reached the sky. They were green with a hint of red, and each of them had a flying dragon carved on them. Inside the stone pillars, there was a jade wall every 30 steps, and the jade walls were covered with paper. Yi Chen, you are here too. A person walked in from outside the palace. It was Wu Zongming. He already knew that Yi Chen had been promoted to an inner disciple, so he did not look surprised. Yi Chen turned around and said, I have been training for 3 months, and I felt that I would not be able to make any more progress in a short period of time, so I came to have a look. Wu Zongming laughed, I can't compare to you, I had to train for 5 months before I dared to take on the mission. Oh right, this is your first time here, so you might not know much about the school missions, let me tell you about them. Thank you. Yi Chen indeed wanted to know more about the school missions. There are actually 2 types of school missions. One is the bounty missions that are entrusted to the school by other forces. For example, a small family can't do something, so they can spend a lot of money to entrust the school with the task. Then, the school will evaluate the difficulty of the mission and give it to their disciples. The other type is the school missions that are assigned by the school themselves, also known as the school missions. The rewards of the school missions might not be as high as the bounty missions, but you can get a small amount of soul stones. So if you want to know what kind of mission it is, you just have to look at the rewards. The bounty missions can only get you gold, while the school missions can get you both gold and soul stones. Yi Chen nodded, so that's how it is. Also, according to the difficulty, the missions are divided into several levels. The lowest level is the white mission, which is suitable for early condensing reality realm warriors, the gray mission, which is suitable for mid-condensing reality realm warriors, and the black mission, which is usually only accepted by late condensing reality realm warriors. As for the black mission, it is the elder mission, which is not something we can look at anymore. Now, look at the color of the jade walls, and you will know the level of the mission. Wu Zongming pointed at the jade walls in the palace. Hearing Wu Zongming, Yi Chen took a closer look and found that the 2 jade walls near the door were white in color, which meant that the missions on them should be white missions. According to the rules of the left side and the right side, the one on the left side of the door was for the school missions, and the one on the right side was for the bounty missions. Behind them were 2 gray jade walls, and behind the gray jade walls were 2 black jade walls. There were the least number of disciples standing there, only 7 or 8 of them. Most of them were at the late condensing reality realm, and there were even some core disciples among them. Clearing his throat, Wu Zongming continued, besides that, the missions of the same level are also divided into different levels of difficulty. They are 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, and the highest 5-star difficulty. With my current strength, I can only take on 3-star white missions. 4-star missions would be life-threatening, and 5-star missions would basically be a one-way trip. Yi Chen asked, can we form a team to complete the missions? Wu Zongming nodded and said, that's right. For example, I can only take on 3-star white missions. If I want to take on a 4-star white mission, I would have to find 1 or 2 inner disciples who are at the same level as me. In this way, once the mission is completed, I would be able to get more rewards than the previous 3-star white missions. Oh, is that so? Hearing Wu Zongming's explanation, Yi Chen's interest in the school missions had increased a lot. However, he did not plan to form a team with anyone yet. He would think about it in the future. Alright, I will go and say hello to a few of my senior disciples. I have teamed up with them last time. Wu Zongming saw that Yi Chen had basically understood the situation, so he did not waste any more time. Yi Chen thanked him again. After Wu Zongming left, Yi Chen first walked to the white jade wall on the right. Just as he expected, the white jade wall on the right had a bounty mission written on it. The reward was only gold, there were no soul stones. He looked down from above. On the first piece of paper, there was a black skull, and below the skull, there were words. Mission: eliminate the skeleton bandit group. Crimes: robbing passing merchants, killing people for their goods, raping women, heinous crimes. Strength analysis: the leader of the horse gang is a peak early condensing reality realm warrior. The second and third leaders are experienced early condensing reality realm warriors. They have 30 to 40 people, and dozens of powerful bows. Mission difficulty: 5 stars reward, 30,000 gold. Suggestion: 5 peak level early condensing reality realm warriors or 2 mid condensing reality realm warriors. After reading the description, Yi Chen gasped. This 5-star white rank mission was way too difficult. It turned out to be eliminating a horse gang. The more people there were, the better it would be. Even if one's cultivation was 1 level higher, it would still not be enough. If one was careless, he might even lose his life. No wonder it was suggested to have 5 peak early condensing reality realm warriors or 2 mid condensing reality realm warriors. If one went alone, it would be suicide. But, it was just a suggestion after all. It was aimed at the disciples who were not very talented. For a genius like Yi Chen, it was nothing new to challenge someone who was at a higher cultivation level. If he took this mission, Yi Chen had more than 90% confidence that he could complete it. But, would there be any problems if he took on such a difficult mission right from the start? After thinking for a while, Yi Chen decided to give up on the 5-star white rank mission for now. It was not that he was afraid of trouble, but he was just being cautious. He decided to take on a low difficulty white rank mission first. Once he had a thorough understanding of the mission's difficulty, he would then take on a high difficulty mission. This mission is mine. Suddenly, a hand pulled at the paper. With a swoosh, the mission list of eliminating the skeleton horse gang fell into the hand of the person who took the mission. Yi Chen turned his head and looked over. The one who took the mission was a tall teenager with a pair of thick black eyebrows. Just by standing there, his whole body was emitting an extremely oppressive aura, which made the surrounding disciples take half a step back uncontrollably. It's Senior Brother Wang. Brother Wang. Yi Chen did not recognize him, but the Zhenqi vibration coming from him was very strong. He was at least a mid-condensing reality realm warrior. The tall teenager chuckled, then turned around and left. Without being affected too much, Yi Chen put his attention back on the jade board and looked down. The third line. Mission: kill the bloody butcher. Crimes: raping women, killing people like flies. Analysis: peak early condensing reality realm warrior. Difficulty: 3 stars reward, 4,000 taels of gold. Suggestion: 2 peak level early condensing reality realm warriors or 1 mid condensing reality realm warrior. Yi Chen's eyes brightened. That's him. Chapter 61. The Bloody Butcher's power was at most equivalent to a mid-condensing reality realm warrior. Not to mention the current Yi Chen, even if he had just reached the condensing reality realm, he would not be afraid. To be honest, choosing this white rank mission was a bit of an overkill. After all, there was no need to rush. However, Yi Chen did not think that way. This was only his first mission, and he did not want to make any mistakes. He had to make sure that nothing would go wrong. Once he had enough experience, he would be able to choose the more difficult missions. There were always missions, and it was not like this was his first time. There was no need to rush. Tearing down the mission sheet, Yi Chen did not rush to leave. He turned around and walked to the white jade board. The first line of the mission was a 4-star white rank mission. It was obviously easier than killing the skeleton bandits. The reward was 5,000 gold and 2 low-rank soul stones, which did not seem like much at all. However, accounts could not be calculated in this way. The value of a low-grade spirit stone was between 1,000 and 1,500 silvers, but the key was to have a place to buy it. Especially for an individual, it was very difficult to buy a spirit stone. You could only come across one in an auction. Therefore, this was only the normal value of a low-grade spirit stone. Most of the time, it was not normal. Sometimes, a low-grade spirit stone could be sold up to 2,000 or 3,000 silvers. Because of this, although the rewards of the missions were low, they were very popular among the disciples who were in need of low-rank soul stones. Every time a mission appeared, it would be taken. There were dozens of mission sheets on the first line of the white jade board. Now, there was only one left. It would probably be taken by someone soon. Yi Chen was not in need of soul stones, and the rewards of the white rank missions were too little. He did not want to join in the fun at all. When he walked out of the floating cloud palace, Wu Zongming happened to walk out at the same time. Yi Chen, what kind of mission did you take? Yi Chen waved the mission sheet in his hand, 3-star white rank mission. Wu Zongming laughed, just like you, I also took a 3-star white rank mission. Go to the Wind Chime town and kill a bloodthirsty two-tailed leopard. Two-tailed leopard, very fast. The two-tailed leopard was a rank 3 beast, it was not very powerful. It was about the same as a normal condensing reality realm warrior, but it was as fast as the wind, very hard to deal with. That's true. I need to go back and prepare. Let's talk again when we have time. Alright then. After parting with Wu Zongming, Yi Chen saw that it was still early and walked down the mountain. Blackstone Village, a remote village near the Blackstone Mountain Range. The area of the town was not large, and there were no tall buildings. It was surrounded by a simple wooden fence. Its purpose was nothing more than to guard against sneak attacks from low-level demonic beasts. After all, demonic beasts frequently appeared in the wilderness. If one was not careful, they would become prey. On the road not far from Blackstone Town, the youth slowed down his horse. According to the information, the Bloody Butcher came to this area 3 days ago, and within a few hundred miles, Blackstone Town is the only place where people can live, unless he went somewhere else during this time. The young man was Yi Chen. It had been a day and 2 nights since he had accepted the mission. During this time, he had traveled non-stop and arrived at Blackstone Town, which was 3,000 miles away. Whatever, let's go in and take a look first. With a slight push from his legs, Yi Chen urged the dark brown horse to gallop towards the entrance of Darkstone Town. After entering the town, Yi Chen got off the horse and led it as he walked. The environment of the town was not very good. The road was full of potholes, and the shops on both sides of the road looked very old, as if they had not been repaired for a long time. Compared to the windy town, this was like a village. The two were not even on the same level. Of course, Yi Chen did not care about the environment. His purpose here was to kill the Bloody Butcher, and he would leave soon. In the middle of the town, there was a 2-story restaurant. Maybe this was the busiest place in Blackstone Town. On the 2nd floor, there was a burly man sitting by the window. He was wearing brown clothes, and his wild hair was draped over his shoulders. The hand that was holding the wine glass was thick and had thick calluses. It was as hard as iron, and it was slightly black. As for his face, it was very scary. The crisscrossing knife scars had almost ruined his face. Only his eyes were shining, and emitted a cruel aura. After eating a few pieces of beef and drinking a glass of wine, the burly man turned around and said to a teenager in purple, "Who are you? It seems like you have been staring at me for a long time." The teenager in purple put down the chopsticks in his hand, and said arrogantly, "You are the Bloody Butcher." "That's right." The burly man licked his lips. "It seems like my luck is quite good. Do you want to kill yourself, or do you want me to kill you myself? Choose one." Hearing him, the bloody butcher laughed out loud. You are just a small peak of the early condensing reality realm warrior. How dare you say something like that? You have underestimated me. Looking at your clothes, you must be an inner disciple of the Purple Sun Martial School, right? Unfortunately, you will die here today. He had killed many people, and was often chased by disciples from different martial institutions. But he still managed to survive. But last time, he was really unlucky. He ran into an inner disciple from the North Snow Martial Academy, who was at the same cultivation level as him. His blizzard sword art was extremely sharp, which almost killed him. Fortunately, the experience of living on the edge of a knife was not useless. At the most dangerous moment, he fought back like crazy, as if he was ready to risk his life. That North Snow Martial Academy disciple was still inexperienced, so he did not plan to fight him head-on. Instead, he wanted to kill him slowly. But in the end, he was killed by the Bloody Butcher with one palm attack. The Bloody Butcher did not have it easy either. His face had been cut dozens of times by the sword light, which made him look like this. The purple-clothed youth slowly stood up. I've eaten and drunk my fill. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being ruthless. I forgot to tell you that my name is Ting Yunlong, and I'm the one who's going to kill you. Hee hee. The Bloody Butcher also stood up. He did not say anything, but stared at the space behind Ting Yunlong, as if there was someone there that caught his attention. Ting Yunlong looked confused as he turned around. Little brat, you are still too young. The Bloody Butcher laughed proudly. He raised his thick right hand, which was surrounded by a bloody aura, and threw a palm attack towards Ting Yunlong. Ting Yunlong was furious. Despicable. He threw a palm attack back. Boom! A powerful shockwave spread out in all directions. All of the tables and chairs on the second floor were shattered. Some of the diners did not manage to dodge in time, and were bleeding from all of their orifices. After the sound, Ting Yunlong was thrown out of the second floor, and fell on the bumpy street. His clothes were torn, and his face was pale. The next second, the Bloody Butcher chased after him, and threw out another palm attack. He yelled, slaughtering Yuan bloody hand. The bloody Zhenqi turned into a huge palm print in the air, and pressed towards Ting Yunlong, which made all of his Zhenqi and Qi stagnate. At this critical moment, Ting Yunlong bit the tip of his tongue, and threw out two palms filled with purple Zhenqi. Chapter 62. Zhenyang Palm. Ting Yunlong's palms released a layer of purple qi, which was extremely hot. Wherever it passed, the air started to boil like boiling water. When the bloody palm and the purple qi layer collided, the air started to twist. Then, a bright purple light exploded, trying to break through the bloody palm. However, the palm was extremely solid and had the effect of destroying Zhenqi. Once the purple light touched the palm, it was like snow in the sun, it started to melt. In the blink of an eye, 30% of the Zhenqi layer had been destroyed, and the remaining 70% had been destroyed immediately. Puff! Ting Yunlong spat out a mouthful of blood. He was blown away. The Bloody Butcher would not give up on such a great opportunity. He chased after Ting Yunlong as he landed on the ground. He laughed arrogantly, although my Qi slaughtering bloody hand is a top-rank mortal realm martial skill, it specializes in destroying Zhenqi. Plus, you did not have time to accumulate your power, you could only use 70% of your power. You are no match for me. Bloody Butcher, do you really think I am a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered by you? Hearing this, a ferocious expression flashed across Ting Yunlong's face. As he retreated, he reached into his robe and took out a pill. This pill was about the size of a longan fruit. Its surface was crystal clear and it contained a red light that resembled a raging flame. Ting Yunlong swallowed the pellet without any hesitation. His purple robe started to flutter in the air, it was obvious that he was using all of his Zhenqi. The next second, Ting Yunlong's face turned bright red, his earthworm-sized veins popped up under his skin, reaching all the way to his hair. The Bloody Butcher was shocked. Heart-burning pellet. Ka la la. The ground cracked under Ting Yunlong's feet. Ting Yunlong stopped moving backward, his body was surrounded by a faint red light, his aura was no weaker than a mid-condensing reality realm warrior. That's right, it is our martial institution's heart-burning pellet. Within 15 minutes after swallowing it, your Jin Qi will start to boil, it will increase your cultivation by 1 level. Plus, the effect of the pellet will be endless, and all of your previous injuries will be suppressed. As Ting Yunlong spoke, he put his right hand 3 inches away from his dantian and slowly pulled it up, as if he was preparing for the last moment to bring the pellet's effect to its peak. Before this, there were already a lot of onlookers, some of them were lone travelers, and Yi Chen was one of them. I did not expect an inner disciple from the Purple Sun Martial School to be ahead of me. This is going to be a bit troublesome. But luckily, the Bloody Butcher is not that easy to take care of. His power is not that important, he is only as powerful as a normal mid-condensing reality realm warrior, but he is very experienced, he can use his power to 120%. Even a mid-condensing reality realm warrior would not be able to do anything to him. Holding his horse and standing at the back of the crowd, Yi Chen thought to himself. Seeing what had happened to Ting Yunlong, and hearing the Bloody Butcher talk about the heart-burning pellet, Yi Chen realized that Ting Yunlong still had a way to save his life. The heart-burning pellet was unique to the Purple Yang Martial School, they could only make less than 10 of them in a year, and each of them could be sold for more than 10,000 silvers. It was something that many warriors wanted. It seemed like Ting Yunlong wanted to kill the Bloody Butcher at all costs. After all, a heart-burning pellet was worth tens of thousands of silvers, and killing the Bloody Butcher would only be worth 4,000 silvers. It would be a waste to kill the Bloody Butcher. Brat, so what if you took the heart-burning pellet? Die! Ting Yunlong even had a heart-burning pellet, he was obviously valued by the Purple Yang Martial School. Maybe he had other valuable things with him. Thinking about this, the Bloody Butcher's aura grew even stronger, and he threw a palm attack towards Ting Yunlong. Shoo! The air was pierced through by the bloody palm attack, bringing up waves of ripples. It looked like it was going to kill Ting Yunlong with one hit. Ting Yunlong let out a long roar, and the red light around his body suddenly increased by 30%. The strong Jin Qi vibration made the windows around them shake, making creaking sounds. You want to kill me? Die! Ting Yunlong did not move back, instead, he drew a half-circle in the air with his right hand. A purple and red ball of qi came together and turned into a light ball, flying towards the bloody palm attack. Boom boom boom. The buildings on both sides of the street cracked open, and a shockwave that was powerful enough to kill a tiger spread out in all directions, blowing away all the people who were watching the fight from afar. The two of them each took 3 steps back, and then started fighting again. Boom 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 boom, the wind from their palms whistled, and the shadows of their figures overlapped one another. The crackling sounds of energy explosions rang out incessantly. The two of them fought from the east to the west, from the street to the rooftop of the restaurant. They fought everywhere. After a while, a shadow suddenly flew back and landed on top of a house. It was the Bloody Butcher. Trying to buy time. No way. Ting Yunlong sneered. He jumped towards his opponent and threw out a palm attack. The Bloody Butcher did not seem to want to dodge. He slightly spread his legs and straightened his right palm, taking Ting Yunlong's attack head-on. Dong! Ah! After the loud sound, there was a scream. Ting Yunlong's body was smashed into the wall of the restaurant. His eyes were wide open as if he had seen a ghost. He said weakly, "You are so despicable. How could you hide your real power?" Hee, I had already reached the mid-condensing reality realm half a month ago. I was just afraid that I would be chased by people who were even more powerful than me, so I had to hide my real power. This way, I could live a free life, play with you so-called martial disciples, and get a lot of wealth from you. Why not? The Bloody Butcher paused for a second, then continued, "After I get all your wealth, I will leave the Windy Nation and go to another nation, then I will change my name. By then, no one will be able to find me, ha 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 ha." At the end of his speech, the Bloody Butcher laughed proudly. Although he was not very powerful, he had played with a lot of beautiful women. Some of them were from big families. He had killed so many people that he had lost count. At least, he could fill up this restaurant. However, he was lucky. He was still alive, and he had more than $1 million with him. No matter where he went, he could make a name for himself. Ting Yunlong's eyes were wide open, and he breathed his last breath unwillingly. At the moment of his death, he regretted not running away, he regretted accepting this task, and he regretted encountering the bloody butcher, this evil and cunning villain. If he had a second chance in life, he would definitely choose to live on. He would not risk his life for the so-called fame. Seeing that Ting Yunlong was dead, the bloody butcher was still worried. He threw out a palm attack and shattered Ting Yunlong's chest, then walked up to him, ready to search his body. The bloody butcher is so cunning. A clear voice came from the crowd. The bloody butcher stopped walking and looked towards the direction of the voice. His face darkened. Who is it? The one who will take your head. Yi Chen slowly walked out from the crowd. Chapter 63. The bloody butcher glanced at Yi Chen. He was wearing a white robe, with a long sword on his waist. He was about 15 years old, handsome, and had a pure qi. The bloody butcher sneered, "It seems like quite a lot of people have accepted this mission. I just killed an inner disciple from the Purple Sun Martial School, and now another from the Sky Cloud Martial School. Will the inner disciples from the Rudra Martial School and the Emerald Martial Palace come as well? Unfortunately, you are even more stupid than him. You know that I am a mid-condensing reality realm warrior, and you still want to take my head. You really don't know how to spell the word death." If Yi Chen was a late condensing reality realm warrior, the bloody butcher would not even think about fighting him, and would definitely run away. But judging from the vibration of Yi Chen's Jin Qi, he was only at the early condensing reality realm, not even at the peak. Although that Jin Qi was a bit strange, it was extremely pure and sharp, as if it was made up of countless tiny blades, but it was still nothing to him. Yi Chen's expression did not change. He said, "You are only at the mid-condensing reality realm, but you can pretend to be at the peak of the early condensing reality realm. You must have trained some kind of supplementary martial art, right? I am very interested." This kind of supplementary martial art did not have much effect on increasing one's power, but sometimes it could be more effective than one's own power. For example, one could hide one's real power and wait for the enemy to be careless, then suddenly counterattack. Or one could suppress one's own power and enter some ancient ruins with restrictions on cultivation. The bloody butcher frowned. Yi Chen's calm tone made him feel a little bit of danger, as if something terrible was going to happen. But as soon as the thought appeared, he denied it. How could it be? An early condensing reality realm warrior, even if he was a genius, he would not be able to win against me. The inner disciple from the North Snow Martial Academy was an example. No matter how talented he was, he still died in my hands. Thinking of this, the bloody butcher grinned and said, "Dead people don't need to know so much." Earth explosion. Before he could finish his sentence, the bloody butcher stomped on the ground. The ground cracked open, and a pitch-black crack extended towards Yi Chen's location like lightning. Then, there was a loud explosion. The pebbles were like hidden weapons, shooting out in all directions, covering an area of more than 8 zhang. The buildings on both sides were instantly riddled with thousands of holes, and the people who were close to them were pierced into sieves. They fell to the ground in terror, dying with their eyes wide open. Looking at the site of the explosion, there was a huge crater that was 1.5 feet wide and 3 feet deep, and there were no corpses or bones left. Ha ha ha. If I, the bloody butcher, want you dead by midnight, I won't let you live until midnight. In your next life, be more careful. It had been a long time since the bloody butcher had had such a good time. He had killed 2 disciples from the martial school in a row, and it was as easy as blowing off dust. The only pity was that the 2 disciples had been torn into pieces by the explosion, and the gold notes were definitely gone. After a slight heartache, the bloody butcher thought it through. He already had millions of gold coins, and a little more or less didn't matter. The lone travelers in the Jianghu looked at each other. This bloody butcher was too powerful. An early condensing reality realm warrior could not even take one attack from him, and died without even a corpse left. Luckily, he did not lose his mind, or else he would be the one dead. As the bloody butcher was about to bend down and search Ting Yunlong's body, a sword light suddenly enlarged in front of him. What he saw was Yi Chen, who was wearing a white robe. He looked like a ghost under the sun, but he also had an otherworldly aura. He flashed past in front of his eyes at an almost instantaneous speed. Swoosh! A stream of blood shot out from the bloody butcher's neck, shooting out 3 meters away. You are not dead. With every word the bloody butcher said, a huge amount of blood came out from his neck. Standing 5 steps behind the bloody butcher, Yi Chen put his sword back into its scabbard, and said lightly, I wanted to talk to you for a bit longer, too bad. Bam! A self-deprecating look flashed through the bloody butcher's eyes. His head tilted and fell down from his neck. His body fell down as well, and his blood stained the ground. Turning around, Yi Chen slightly shook his head. If it was a real fair fight, it would take him at least 3 attacks to kill the bloody butcher. After all, the bloody butcher was more powerful than Cui Shiming, and in terms of cunning, even 2 Cui Shimings would not be able to compete with him. However, the bloody butcher had underestimated him from the very beginning. Otherwise, even if Yi Chen's sword could hit the bloody butcher, it would have been blocked by his protective Jin Qi. However, Yi Chen had forgotten one thing. After training the crane shadow steps, his speed was unbelievably fast. Just when the bloody butcher wanted to circulate his qi, it was already too late. The bloody butcher had been cautious his whole life, but at the last moment, he had been careless. Of course, no matter how cautious he had been, the moment Yi Chen decided to kill him, his life no longer belonged to him. This was the absolute power, the absolute advantage, and nothing could make up for it. Those lone travelers who had not left yet had their mouths wide open, they were all shocked. All they saw was Yi Chen's sword attack, and then the bloody butcher's head fell off. They had no idea what had happened. Sword attack, head fall. What a clean cut, what kind of skill was this? Just like a killer hiding in the dark, if he didn't make a move, then he would definitely kill. This kid is terrifying. A lone traveler said in a low voice. Another person said, I feel like I see the shadow of young Master North Snow in him. He is also very young, and he also has the same ability to kill. However, if he wants to reach the same level as young Master North Snow, there is one person who is his biggest rival. Who? Who else could it be? The 3rd disciple of the North Snow Martial Academy, Lynch. This guy is not very talented, but he can always do things that ordinary people can't. He defeated Quick Blade Wu Wanshan with only 10 attacks, cut the waterfall in half with 1 attack, and scared the red smelting bird off with his chi. The leader of the North Snow Martial Academy said that among all the disciples, he was the one who had the highest chance of learning the blade intent. Even young Master North Snow didn't get such an evaluation. Blade intent. Are you kidding me? Even blade artists who have reached the clasping Yuan realm can barely learn the blade intent. In the entire Windy Nation, only the leader of the North Snow Martial Academy has reached this level. What level are you at? What level is the leader of the North Snow Martial Academy? How could he be lying? Plus, he only said it was most likely, he didn't say it was certain. That's true. But this kid is much weaker than Lynch. He still has a long way to go if he wants to compete with Lynch. All the martial artists were discussing and expressing their own opinions. Yi Chen did not hear these discussions, he was focusing all his attention on the bloody butcher. As a bounty criminal, he would usually carry a large amount of money with him, ranging from hundreds of thousands of taels to tens of thousands of taels. This was also the reason why the disciples of the various sects went crazy. After all, once luck came, it was impossible to stop it, and one could become a millionaire overnight. Chapter 64. After searching all over the bloody butcher's body, Yi Chen did not find anything valuable, only a few hundred gold notes and some silver. Am I really that unlucky? No, This bloody butcher said that he had gotten a huge amount of wealth from the dead disciples of his martial institutions, and he also said that he would leave the Windy Nation and go to another country. There is no way that he only has this amount of money with him. Then, there must be something else. Yi Chen did not believe it, so he released his soul power and searched every inch of the bloody butcher's body. After a while, Yi Chen's eyes brightened. He reached out his hand and touched the bloody butcher's belt. Inside the belt, there was a small protrusion that looked like a ring. When he touched it, he felt a light wave of spirit qi. It's a storage ring, I see. Yi Chen could not help but admire the bloody butcher's cunning, hiding the most valuable thing inside the belt. If it were not for Yi Chen's powerful soul power, he would have missed it and lost the chance to make a fortune. There were too many people around, so Yi Chen poured his Jin Qi into his fingertip and quietly cut open the bloody butcher's belt. He took out the storage ring and put it into his own storage ring without even looking at it. As for Ting Yunlong's wealth, Yi Chen thought it would be troublesome, so he did not take it, in case the Purple Sun Martial School would blame him for Ting Yunlong's death. After searching the body, Yi Chen started to look at the bloody butcher's head. The head looked hideous, with countless scars on it. The mouth and the nose were indistinguishable, but the eyes were wide open, staring at Yi Chen. Shaking his head, Yi Chen took out a piece of black cloth from his storage ring. He reached out his hand, and the bloody butcher's head landed on the black cloth. Yi Chen quickly wrapped the black cloth and tied a knot on it, wrapping the head tightly. From the outside, only the outline of the head could be seen. With this, he could go to the floating cloud palace to collect the reward and record his score. Young warrior, you can't just leave like this. My restaurant is ruined, and so many customers died. What should I do? Thinking that Yi Chen was a disciple of a martial school, so he would not kill innocent people, the 40-year-old owner ran out with tears and snot running down his face. Yi Chen frowned. This restaurant was destroyed by the bloody butcher and Ting Yunlong, and most of the customers were killed by the shockwave from their battle. It had nothing to do with him. But now that the bloody butcher was dead, and he had all of his wealth, it would not be right if he did not pay for it. A thought flashed through his mind. Yi Chen took out 2 gold notes, each worth 1,000 silvers, and said, "Here are 20,000 silvers, it is enough to buy your restaurant and compensate those innocent people who died. But you have to remember, only 1,000 silvers belongs to you. If you dare to take even a single cent, the next person to die will be you." The Black Stone Town was located in a remote area, the buildings were old, and the value of a restaurant was less than 1,000 silver. But it was hard to calculate the value of human lives. A rich family could not even afford a few 100,000 silver, but if it was a disciple of a big family, he would have to pay with his life. Money, they had it all. According to the law of the Windy Nation, an ordinary person who died in an accident would have to pay 500 silver to his family, which was enough for an ordinary family to live for 10 years. Now that Yi Chen had taken out 20,000 silver, minus the 1,000 silver from the restaurant, the remaining 19,000 silver could be used to pay for 38 families, and the number of people who died was far less than 38. Maybe it was the sorrow of the poor, but compared to the lives of their families and the 500 silver, they would rather choose the latter. At least the latter could guarantee them 10 years of peace, and they would have enough money for their children to marry, and they could even repair their houses. The owner kept nodding. "Young warrior, don't worry. There are so many people here as witnesses, I would not dare to take a single silver." "I hope so." Yi Chen thought about it and agreed. Handing the gold notes to the owner, Yi Chen was about to leave, when those Jianghu people surrounded him. "Young warrior, you are so powerful. The bloody butcher killed people like flies, a lot of people wanted to kill him, but they were killed by him. Today, with the death of the bloody butcher, I wonder how many people are grateful to you. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling face." Yi Chen said, "You are flattering me. Even if I didn't kill him, someone else would have. May I know your name, young warrior? We all respect you." Yi Chen thought about the fact that the reason he traveled the martial world was for fame. Sometimes, even if he didn't care about fame, people would still respect him because of his fame. In the end, he still couldn't escape the shackles of fame, so he decided to be generous and said, "I am a disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School, Yi Chen. Young warrior Yi, I am the dual blade artist Su Shan. I am the deadly crutch Sun Ruhai. I am the iron leg Lu Wan." All of a sudden, the martial artists all announced their names. They all thought that they were quite famous in this area, and if they could establish a relationship with an inner disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School, they would be even more famous in the future, and people would look up to them when they went out. Yi Chen forced a smile. Sometimes, fame was not a good thing. It could cause a lot of trouble. When he finally got rid of those people, it was already afternoon. Riding on the dark brown horse, Yi Chen left. On the road with few people, Yi Chen took out the Bloody Butcher's spirit ring from his storage ring and sent his soul power into it. Whoo! A faint vibration spread out, and Yi Chen saw the space inside the spirit ring. The space was 1 square meter, which was the size of a small room. It was filled with gold and silver, and the golden light made it bright. Counting carefully, there were more than 10,000 gold taels and 300,000 silver taels piled on the ground. There was also a stack of gold notes at the side, adding up to 60,000 silver taels. In total, there were more than 100,000 gold taels, which was equivalent to more than 1,000,000 silver taels. Even Yi Chen's father only had a few 100,000 silvers. Although he did not need to spend his own money, and everything was covered by his family, it was enough to prove his wealth. Besides money and other common things, there were a few martial arts manuals on the small bookshelf in the corner. Yi Chen moved his mind and took out the martial art manual from the top of the bookshelf. On the cover of the manual, there were 4 shocking blood-red characters, Blood Hand of Chi Butcher. He opened it. Blood Hand of Chi Butcher, top-rank Mortal Realm martial skill, the exclusive martial art of the rank 7 Evil Blood Martial School in Rudra Nation. The user needs to absorb the rare evil blood chi from the natural environment. The stronger the evil blood chi, the more powerful it will be. Once mastered, the user can easily break through the protective Jin Chi layer of other warriors at the same level, and take their lives. It was a martial art from the rank 7 Evil Blood Martial School in Rudra Nation. Yi Chen was a bit confused. The Evil Blood Martial School was one of the top martial institutions in Rudra Nation, and their overall power was even higher than the Emerald Martial Palace. Their disciples were extremely evil, and they would kill anyone they wanted. Yi Chen did not know how the Blood Hand of Chi Butcher ended up in his hands. Chapter 65. On the horse's back, Yi Chen shook his head and put the Bloody Hand skill back into the ring. This kind of skill was too dangerous, and the martial institutions were most afraid of the martial arts being leaked out. Even if it had nothing to do with them, learning it would bring bad luck, and they might even lose their martial arts. Compared to the Evil Blood Martial School, a single person's power was too weak. Plus, no matter how powerful the Bloody Hand was, it was only a top-rank Mortal Realm skill, not enough for Yi Chen to take the risk to learn it. Putting his consciousness back into the ring, Yi Chen took out the second skill from the shelf. Looking at it in his hand, he realized that this secret manual was actually a secret skill that had not been made public. Earth Explosion, a top-rank Mortal Realm skill. The user needs to pour all of his Jin Chi into the soles of his feet and send it out through a special shockwave. It explodes when it reaches the designated location. There are 3 stages to this skill. The first stage allows the Jin Chi to tear open the ground and rush towards the opponent. The second stage allows the Jin Chi to hide in the ground and explode at a designated location. The third stage allows the Jin Chi to hide in the ground and explode from a long distance. Yi Chen raised his eyebrows. Judging from the realm described above, the Bloody Butcher had only trained to the first realm, where his attacks were relatively obvious. If the opponent had strong senses and was fast enough, they would still be able to dodge it. The second realm was a bit harder to defend against, where his Jin Chi could be hidden under the ground and appear under one's feet without a sound. If the opponent was caught off guard, he might actually be able to kill a warrior of the same level. The third realm was starting to get more insane, where he could hide his Jin Chi under the ground and control it from a distance. It was like controlling a landmine. Yi Chen felt lucky. If the bloody butcher had trained the earth explosion to the third stage, even if he could escape, he would still be shocked. And that was only because he had a strong soul power and was fast enough. If it were anyone else, they would not be able to dodge it in time, or they would not be able to dodge it. Of course, a secret skill was a secret skill, and it was much harder to train than a martial skill of the same level. The earth explosion skill was definitely not any easier than a low-rank earth realm martial skill. People who were not talented might not even be able to reach the third stage even after 10 years. With the secret skill in hand, Yi Chen would not let it go. He had made up his mind to train it and make it one of his trump cards. Next was the third secret manual, which was also the last one. The Hiding Chi spell is a low-rank earth realm auxiliary martial art. It is divided into two realms. In the lower realm, at the condensing reality realm, you can change the vibration of your Jin Qi at will and hide your cultivation level by 1 level. In the upper realm, at the clasping Yuan realm, you can hide your cultivation level by 1 level. Beyond the clasping Yuan realm, you cannot use the Hiding Chi spell. The sound of horse hooves had already woken up a lot of people. Many houses had their lights lit up. It was noisy and chaotic. Obviously, they were looking for someone. As the doors of the houses nearby opened, a group of people rushed out. "Who are you? Why did you come to Yellowstone Village? Don't act rashly. We are not afraid of you." Yi Chen smiled bitterly. He suddenly punched a big hole in the ground. "I just came to stay for the night. I will leave tomorrow. With my strength, it is too easy for me to do anything to you." "You really came to stay for the night?" The leader of the group was a bare-chested man with a hoe in his hand. He looked at the hole in the ground and swallowed his saliva. Yi Chen nodded. "Do I look like a robber to you?" "You don't." The man looked at Yi Chen. He saw that he was wearing a moon-white robe made of high-quality materials. The corners of the robe could probably support him for a month. There was a sword hanging on his waist. He looked to be about 15 or 16 years old. He was handsome and refined. He did not look like a robber who would do anything. Letting out a sigh, the man said loudly, "Okay, everyone go back. This guy is not a robber." Hearing this, most of the people turned around and went back to their houses. Only a few people stayed to watch the show. The man did not care about them. He said to Yi Chen, "My house still has an empty room. You can come in and stay for the night." As for the fee, Yi Chen took out a piece of silver and threw it to the man. "That's enough. That's enough, that's enough. Chunhua, quickly tidy up the empty room for this young hero." The man beamed with joy and loudly scolded his wife in the room. Yi Chen looked around and did not see any house with a yard. He said, "Where do you think I should tie my horse?" "Horse? There is a broken tree behind my house. You can tie it there." The man stared at the dark brown horse and pointed at the back of the house. "Okay." He led the horse to the location. Just like the man said, there was a big tree that needed 2 people to wrap their arms around. However, it was broken and could not be seen from the other side of the house. After tying the rope, Yi Chen poured out a big pile of grass from his storage ring. He said to the dark brown horse, "Rest well today. We still have a long journey tomorrow." Swoosh! The dark brown horse puffed out 2 puffs of air from its nose. It lowered its head to eat the grass. Yi Chen was about to leave when he saw something strange happening in the night sky. He could not help but gasp. Is it a ghost or? Chapter 66. Above the misty night sky, a cluster of black shadow flew towards Yi Chen at a seemingly slow speed. As it got closer, Yi Chen finally saw the real body of the black shadow. 5 ghost-like human figures in white robes were carrying a huge coffin. The coffin was 1 meter long and 1 meter wide. It was completely black, and did not look like it was made from wood. Instead, it looked like it was carved from a whole black rock. It was heavy, creepy, but it also had a majestic aura. 5 white shadows were carrying a coffin, flying above the endless night sky. If a normal person saw it, he or she would have fainted on the ground, thinking that they were here to capture his or her soul and drag him or her into hell. However, Yi Chen was a martial artist, and once a martial artist reached the late stage of his or her cultivation, he or she would be able to turn the ocean upside down, go up into the sky and into the ground, reverse life and death, and control the natural law. Plus, these 5 white shadows were not ghosts. They should be martial artists who had trained some kind of special martial arts, as they were moving very fast, as if they did not have a physical body. Clasping Yuan Realm martial artists, they are definitely clasping Yuan Realm martial artists. Judging from that creepy and mysterious chi, they are even more powerful than the headmaster of the Sky Cloud Martial School, only slightly weaker than the leader Luo Xinglia. Yi Chen's soul power was extremely powerful. Once he glanced at anyone, he would be able to compare them with people he had seen before, and come to a conclusion very quickly. Therefore, even though he could not see through the cultivation of these white shadows, he was still able to analyze their power through comparison. A chill ran down his spine. Yi Chen could not help but wonder what was in that coffin. Was it a person, or was it just a dead body? The latter was impossible, as it would be too much to ask 5 late-clasping Yuan Realm martial artists to carry a dead body. There was only one explanation left, which was that there was someone in the coffin, a powerful martial artist whose cultivation was not below the astral reaching realm. Otherwise, there was no way that a late-clasping Yuan Realm martial artist could carry a coffin. An astral reaching realm martial artist. Yi Chen licked his dry lips, not daring to move. It had been a long time since an astral reaching realm martial artist had come out to the Windy Nation. The leaders of the top 5 martial institutions, such as the leader of the Emerald Martial School, the leader of the North Snow Martial Academy, the leader of the Purple Sun Martial School, the leader of the Rudra Martial School, and the leader of the Sky Cloud Martial School. These 5 people were all at the peak of late-clasping Yuan Realm, and were extremely powerful. However, the premise was that an astral reaching realm martial artist did not come out, otherwise, even they would have to stand aside. The sky was filled with dark clouds. 5 white figures carried the coffin and floated in front of the dark clouds. Their white robes were blown by the air currents, dragging very long. They were like the white impermanence who wanted to take someone's life, but also like a lonely and ferocious spirit. After a few flickers, the scene of the 5 ghosts carrying the coffin disappeared without a trace, leaving only the dark clouds that were still spreading. Yi Chen wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead, feeling a lingering fear. "Young hero, what are you doing outside? An empty room has already been prepared for you," the man said through the window in the room. "All right." After settling the dark brown horse down, Yi Chen turned around and left. The empty room wasn't big. There was a bed, a table, and a chair inside. There was also an oil lamp hanging on the wall. The oil lamp emitted an orange glow, barely illuminating the entire room. "Rest well. Let me know if you need anything. I'll get it done for you immediately." The man standing at the door could not hide his joy. 5 taels of silver. The living conditions of Huangshe village were not high, but it was enough for his family to live for 2 to 3 months. They would rise from the ranks of being able to fill their stomachs to being rich. Yi Chen thought about it and said, "It might rain after midnight. Find some villagers to build a shed so that my horse won't get wet. Here are 10 taels of silver. Give it to the villagers who are willing to work." After saying that, Yi Chen gave him another 2 pieces of silver. Good, I'll find someone to do it right away. Only an idiot wouldn't do it." The man's eyes lit up as he respectfully took the silver from Yi Chen's hands. After the man left, Yi Chen waved his hand and the door closed automatically. Sitting on the bed with his legs crossed, he took out 2 low-rank soul stones from his storage ring. Yi Chen started his daily Jin Qi training. In the past, although Yi Chen was very diligent in his training, and could even be said to be very hard-working, he had not reached the point of forgetting himself. The so-called forgetting himself meant that there was nothing else besides training, and everything else would be centered around training. Anything that hindered his training, he would have to overcome or give up. Before, Yichen didn't think much of it. He thought that his training speed was fast enough. With his powerful body, he could absorb 2 portions of Yuan Qi from the soul stones at the same time. However, after seeing the 5 ghosts carrying the coffin tonight, he felt uneasy. His instinct told him that something big was going to happen. This big event might affect the entire Windy Nation, or even beyond that. As for whether he was overthinking it or not, he didn't know. But it was better to take precautions than to do nothing. The former could help him live longer. Yi Chen's Zhen Qi started to circulate inside his body, one round after another. Late at night, there was a cracking sound. A few cracks appeared on the 2 low-rank soul stones in Yi Chen's palms. Slowly opening his eyes, Yi Chen let out a long breath. His breath was like a fog or an arrow, shooting out very far away. It even blew the wall on the other side of the wall, causing stone chips to fall down. A normal early condensing reality realm warrior consumes 1 low-rank soul stone in 5 days, but I consume 2 in 4 days. My speed is 2.5 times faster than others. But in terms of progress, I guess it's only 2 times faster. The quality of the pure Jun Zhen Qi is a bit higher, so I need more Yuan Qi from the soul stones. Throwing away the cracked low-rank soul stones, Yichen felt even more grateful to the owner of the mid-rank storage ring. If it weren't for those 10,000 low-rank soul stones, he wouldn't have been able to absorb the Yuan Qi from the soul stones so easily. 2 low-rank soul stones in 4 days, 20 in 40 days, and 200 in 400 days. And that didn't include his breakthrough to the mid and late condensing reality realm. At that time, he would consume even more low-rank soul stones, which ordinary people wouldn't be able to afford. Of course, the Yi family could afford it, but it would be troublesome to explain. First of all, Yichen had to explain why he was consuming 2 times faster than others, and he didn't want to reveal any information about the pure jade body boosting spell yet. It was late at night, the crescent moon was covered by dark clouds, and the sky was dark. Without taking off his clothes, Yichen went straight to sleep, but he still had a little bit of consciousness. After midnight, just as Yichen expected, it started to rain heavily. The sound of the rain covered everything, washing away all the dirt on the ground. The rain didn't stop until the next morning. Unable to reject the man and his wife's enthusiasm, Yichen gave up the idea of leaving immediately, and sat down to have breakfast with them. They had a little daughter, who was only 3 or 4 years old. She was wearing simple clothes, and her eyes were big and watery. She was eating with a small bowl of food, and her voice was very cute, which was also one of the reasons why Yichen was willing to stay for breakfast. After breakfast, Yichen thought the little girl was cute, so he gave her a piece of jade. This piece of jade was not worth much, he bought it especially for the pure jade body boosting spell. There were hundreds of pieces in total, and there were still a few left, each worth less than 30 silvers. Normally, he didn't care about it, but now, it was a good gift. As the little girl thanked him in her childish voice, Yichen chuckled and walked out of the house. At the entrance of the village, Yichen jumped on the horse and rode away.